All right, Brad, before I even welcome people back to Thompson to Clark, I have to deal with this channel, BSPN,
Yes.
had to deal with a very unfortunate and terrible and frustrating 49ers loss yesterday, though your team did pull one out there against the New England Patriots.
Pulled it out of their, you know what? I'll tell you that.
And we both watched a very old Mike Tyson
Poor
on Friday night, which I
Yeah.
do, we do have a post show on this website or on this channel as we simulcasted from Fight Game Media. We're dealing with you call, what did you call this last night? It is whatever the opposite of a hot stove off season is.
Whatever. They keep saying, every time it comes to the baseball off season, the word hot, the phrase hot stove has been, in our vernacular since we were kids, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it was the hot stove. Yeah, whatever the hell the opposite of hot stove is, that's definitely what's going on now. I think Travis Darno, I think, signed with the Angels.
Oh wow,
That's exciting.
there you go. But basically, it was to say that a lot of stuff has been kind of keeping us down a little bit, including Buster Posey trying to turn back the clock to 2010, which we will talk about here in a second. But the one thing that I have right now as a sports fan, now we don't follow all of the same sports teams, but I have my Warriors who are playing above what fans thought. And as I am wearing my Steph Curry hat right now, as I'm wearing my Steph Curry workout vest, there you go with the three. And I'm also drinking the Gentleman's Cut Steph Curry bourbon.
Nice.
I bought it. JJ came over, who just turned 24 today. So happy birthday, JJ.
Happy birthday, old man. Jeez, 24.
24. So yes, 24. I have a 24-year-old and I have a 25-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
And then my stepdaughter's 9 years old. So I'm
There you go.
going way up and way down. But
Yeah.
anyway, we're dealing with this malaise of the baseball offseason. Both of our football teams are like average as average can be, both 5-5.
500. Yeah.
So the Warriors are actually doing well, and that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. But in the midst of all of that, it is so cold in the Bay Area, so much that we're getting like frost warnings, which you grew up in the Bay Area. You've never probably seen snow in the Bay Area. So
I did. Yeah, actually in the 70s. Because remember, I'm an old guy. So I remember in this. Yeah, in the 70s, before I turned 4 years old, the first house we lived in, we were in, what's that area out like the Silver Creek golf
like
course?
Evergreen area out there?
Yeah, out there. We were up in the hills. And I remember I have pictures of it. I had me out there playing in the snow in the backyard. But I lived here 20 years. Now I shovel snow.
Yeah, it's much more of your day to day. So, what I kind of wanted to just say, we take a lot of things for granted. Whatever gets you going, we're getting close to Thanksgiving here. Sports wise, it may not be on the up and up for us right now at all times, but we're going to get through this and we're going to talk about baseball, and we're going to get through what is an interesting signing, an interesting position created for one Randy Winn. I'm not sure he's technically like suited for the position that was created for him, but
we don't even really know what that position is.
Yeah, it's very vague, and his description of what his qualifications were very vague. But this is the part of the baseball season for us where it's like we kind of have to like create stuff. So we'll have a created segment later. You're going to look back at stuff that we had talked about a year ago show. But we're gonna get through this, and we'll hopefully have some entertaining conversation. But the bourbon is keeping me warm.
That's right.
Family's healthy. Parents are healthy. My mom just celebrated. My parents celebrated their 50th anniversary of late. My mom turned 71, and she's like, thinking about, man, I've all these things I want to do still, so I'm excited to attack those. So all of that to say, sometimes sports suck. Sometimes the world culture sucks.
That too.
We're gonna figure out some things to talk about.
Yeah. I've got, speaking of keeping warm, it's 33 degrees outside right now, and I decided to make a Manhattan tonight because
I'm jealous.
Yeah, the wife and I went to South Tahoe. Oh, I think it was not last weekend, the weekend before. Ran into this little place. If you ever get a chance to go to it, it's called Noel's Coffee. Noel's Coffee and Apothecary. So they serve coffee from 7 a.m. to noon. Then at noon, the red light goes to green.
There you go.
In the place, and all of a sudden the drinks start flowing. So we went there. We stumbled in there one night, and of course in Tahoe it's cold. So we went in there, and I kind of got reinvigorated when I ordered a Manhattan there. They had some spiced bitters in it. Usually in a Manhattan you throw like orange bitters or whatever. This was spiced bitters. Oh my gosh, it was one of the best Manhattans I ever had. So I thought, you know what? I have all the stuff to make a Manhattan, so I got to start doing that more often. I think my sweet vermouth is about 3 years old, so it's probably time to replace that. But
there you go.
But yeah, I went back to the Manhattans because it's that time of year. It's cold. It's time to warm up.
It is, and that the bourbon is doing me well right now. And it's not quite 33. It's it's 50. So it's not.
Well, that's cold for the Bay Area.
It's cold for the Bay Area. You guys scoff at that. You're wearing a cutoff T-shirt. And
50, I'm out in shorts and a T-shirt mowing the lawn. So yeah.
Let's talk about the Randy Winn thing. And this news was like they didn't have this position of a VP of player development. So I wanted to read through Alex Pavlovich. I thought, had the best article, and Andrew Baggerly had a good piece too. But and Alex Pavlovich he was answering some questions that I thought. So I'll read through some of this, and I want to hear your thoughts. So Alex calls this a new role that puts him in charge of Giants minor leaguers and the organization's efforts to return to the days when contributors regularly were coming from within. So the overcorrection of kind of like the Farhan mindset, which is we have this roster of talent, these minor leaguers. Let's not get too close to anybody because we can ship them out when need be. Though, he really didn't trade a lot of these guys, but it's just the mentality of, they're kind of like pieces on a chessboard rather than, human beings that you are drafting to bring into your team to eventually grow onto the main roster. So that is a little bit of a shift organizationally. And he wrote that Winn will work with Senior Director of Player Development, Kyle Haynes, whose role will not change. And Haynes is a holdover from the Zaidi regime. And he will continue to run day-to-day operations for player development. Winn will set the tone for the department. And this is a key for me because this is like jargony to me. Think big picture about what we do, how we do it, and our goals and our messaging. So you have this guy, Haynes, who's running the thing day to day, who probably knows so much more about player development than Randy Winn does. And yet you bring in Randy Winn, probably because he is somebody Buster Posey trusts and sees as a part of like the ecosystem of what makes the Giants the Giants. And maybe that's good for Haynes, because now he can have a go through to Posey, who Posey trusts. But the think big picture thing to me tells me they have no idea what Randy Winn is going to be doing.
I think you're right. I think it almost feels like a buddy hire. I mean, as a Rams fan back in the day, we had Spagnuolo is a fantastic defensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. Right?
He's awesome. He's like everything. Kyle Shanahan's kryptonite.
Yeah, and he was the Rams head coach. I don't know if you remember in the early 2010s. He was terrible. He was awful. He was an awful head coach. just the 4 pillars. But we always joked about, as Rams fans, was, oh, there's another coach hire, a friend of Spags. There's another friend of Spags. And then this guy comes in, unqualified friend of Spags. So it kind of feels almost like we're getting friends of Buster. I'm waiting to see when Hunter Pence gets hired, when Michael Morris gets hired.
Well, this is part of Randy Winn's resume, is that because I was trying to think, I was like, what has he been doing of late? Oh yeah, he's on the Giants post-game show.
Well, and charisma is not, I wouldn't put that number 1 on his resume.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times we texted during a post-game show and we're like, if you put Randy Winn on TV and the post-game show, I'm going to go to bed. That's just, I mean, it's that feeling of the droning, the low energy, the this and that. But hey, I don't know. I mean, usually a VP, you can create a VP position and not have it be, like, it's really not, I hate to say it's not that important, but for the organization, it could be fantastic. It could be, something that Randy Winn excels at. Obviously, we don't know. We're not on the inside, but it's kind of interesting to see. I just want to hear more about this VP of player development, because it I don't know, man.
Okay, so
where were the applicants? Could I have applied? I don't know.
It gets better, and here's how it gets better. Do you know that they asked Randy if he wanted to interview for the GM position?
Oh, I did read that. I tried to forget it, but I did read it. Yes.
How, like, of all, like, okay, Manasian, who they promoted within to be the GM, at least he is like been a baseball ops guy for, a lot of his career. Randy Winn was a scout for 1 year, but under the current GM. So maybe that's the connection. Maybe he made that big of an impact on the new GM.
Yeah, and he was ready for that advancement. Maybe he saw that he was ready for that advancement.
But I don't think he stayed at that level. I think he then did something else. But Randy Winn did some stuff with the what was it? The Giants Fund or whatever. He worked as a special assistant to Bobby Evans, so maybe Bobby Evans has a recommendation to Posey about how smart Randy Winn is. But it's almost like, and I'm going to compare this to our current government. It is almost like we're hiring people for the opposite reason of why they should be hired. We are showing the fan base, like, it really doesn't matter what you've done. It only matters how big of a fan of ours you are. Randy Winn, you've been a Giant through and through for these last several years. We're going to reward you by creating a position for you. Now, I know it's not that simple. I'm just saying how it looks to us.
I get it.
Without them explaining exactly why Randy Winn is with the front office and why they created a role for him. That's what it feels like. And it feels like what's happening with government, and it's not as important, obviously, but it's like this, not about qualifications, guys. That's not about how this thing works.
Right. So you're saying there's a good chance we might see Sergio Romo as VP of ice baths in the next couple of weeks.
Davis has a good one, which will be good for us because we're fans of Kevin Franzen, baby, SJSU's own Kevin Franzen. Maybe he's got a position somewhere. He can, he can at least hit fungos or something.
Yeah, was he ever on KNBR? Because that's,
I think so. I think
that's a sinking ship from what I hear, right?
KNBR is having its own problems. Tom Tolbert's gone. John Lund is gone. Like, just bad stuff happening in radio.
Yeah.
Which is what I saw coming, but I saw this coming 25 years ago rather than
than
today. All right, a couple of other quotes here. So I mentioned that he was an assistant to Bobby Evans. He was the pro scout under how do you pronounce Zach
Manassian.
You pronounced it for me last time.
I looked it up because I looked it up. That's the only reason.
And in 2012, he was a roving outfield and base running instructor through 2016 before he then went up to Evans. So those are the qualifications. And here's what Winn said about what he is doing to prepare for this role. He is diving into studying the farm system. Usually the people who get jobs like this have already done that work. They've already they already know it like the back of their hand, but he's going to dive in. And he's watching video of young Giants prospects, and he knows what he wants the department to focus on. They want young players to play to their strengths. He noted that he was a line drive hitter with speed as a prospect, and he doesn't want to change those types of young players and try to get them to hit the ball out of the ballpark. So there's another overcorrection, which is how the development is today, is teaching players how to hit the ball in the air, because just the idea of there's a better chance for you to do something positive in your at-bat if you hit the ball up in the air rather than hitting it on the ground. Some pitchers are trying to get you to hit the ball on the ground. So that seems like a little bit of an overcorrection to me, is to go, no more of this launch angle stuff and no more of this, miles per hour off the bat. We want you to focus on what you do well. So if you are Punch and Judy, we're going to make you the best Punch and Judy hitter of all time. And that kind of leans into something that Baggerly wrote earlier, I think it was late last week, about the mindset of the offense and where they want the offense to go. Much more contact, much more, Buster is one of the few believers in the RBI still. And he thinks it's actually a skill set rather than luck, which is baseball's kind of leaned on luck of late. And so it's really just like this shift. And I like, if Farhan was like 100% in one direction, I love Buster getting like 40% back, but it's almost like he wants the entire 100% back. And that is my frustration with it, which is you have an organizational shift that will probably take several years to reteach or to unlearn or whatever. And he's like, nope, we're going. We're just going this year, and we're just going to do it our way. And I just find that to be a little maybe optimistic, or maybe a little bit of what someone without experience like him and now Randy Winn would try and do. I don't know.
I get it, but you got to start somewhere, right? And you have to start sometime. And now when you've got a roster, I think that is offensively so young, why not? Right? Why not start now? I love old school baseball. When the whole analytics thing started jumping in, and I try to grab onto it. I try to grasp it. I study it. I try to work it into this podcast as well.
You studying analytics would qualify you to run the Giants analytics department right now.
I get, but I never wore the uniform. So that's where, but I did work for the Giants. Remember, I did play-by-play for the San Jose Giants. So I was in the organization, right?
You did. You qualified.
So maybe I qualified. Who knows?
But who knows more about OPS plus, you or Buster?
It's a draw. I think it's a draw, because maybe he's been to Fangraphs. I don't know. Well, that's a good question for the press to ask him. Hey, Buster, have you ever been to Fangraphs?
I'm teasing Buster a little bit, but I just find it so interesting that his message to the public is like that baseball's about the hard-nosed play and the breaking up two and the choking up with 2 strikes. And like baseball hasn't been that. Like what team
It's been a while.
What team has won a championship? Like the Dodgers, like Shohei, every time he swings, it's out of his ass whether he has 2 strikes or no strikes, and he's the best hitter in baseball. Yeah. So who's doing these things? The Dodgers could hit home runs 1 through 9, which is what made them so destructive. They didn't have little Wade Meckler choking up in the 2-hole like we would have had in 1988 and 87 when we were really into baseball. That's how you played back then. So it's almost like Buster's trying to turn the page not even farther back to 2010, but he's trying to turn it back to when we were kids watching this game. That's what's kind of weird to me.
The go-go Cardinals of the 80s, right? I mean, that's, but I mean, when you look at it though, Buster is he's a strategic guy, right? Yeah, I mean, to command pitching staffs in 3 world championships, you have to be strategic. You have to be one step ahead of the hitter.
Smart guy, savvy guy, his homework, knew the hitters, knew his pitchers, like you said, ahead of the game for sure.
So if he's been studying the game the last couple of seasons, last couple of years, last 10 years, maybe he sees that there's an opening for this. There's a you can slide in and make this happen. There's room for that in the game. And there is really. I mean, when you look at it too, you look at teams that can steal bases. They cause problems. If you can steal bases, if you could put the ball in play, you're constantly creating pressure on the defense. If you're striking out, you're not putting any pressure on the defense. It's one guy that you're battling, and that's the pitcher and catcher. Well, 2, pitcher and catcher, because catcher is calling and trying to, figure out, the game plan to pitch to this guy. So you got 2 guys. If you're constantly putting the ball in play, you're making a couple of guys, 2, 3 guys make a play and you're putting pressure on them. So I like that kind of baseball because things can happen. You're not going to win a championship all the time because you're good. You're going to win a championship because you're good and you're lucky. You're going to have the baseball gods are going to be on your side now and again if you win a World Series. It's just kind of how it happens. Mm-hmm. I mean, Dodgers, were they? Yeah, maybe. That Padres series was tough. They were down, right? They were down 2-1. Was that a 3 of 5? I think it was. Mm-hmm. And they were down 2-1. So they had to come back in that. And they got down 2-1, not because they were, a great team. They got down 2-1 because the Padres got a little lucky and some things went their way. But I don't know. I'm open to it. I'm open to a change. Look, you're 500, you're 500, you're 500, you're 500. At some point, you got to take a step forward. And I think there's room to say, now let's start looking more at and I don't want to say, because this will scare off fans, but I don't want to say small ball because that's not what we're talking about. You still have to have home run hitters. You still have to have a Willie Adames, a Pete Alonso. You're going to give up some defense somewhere. You're going to give up some speed somewhere to have guys who can hit home runs. But like Bags said, even the best 2-strike teams was what he reported that it was the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah.
And they hit 201 with 2 strikes. You don't even want to get to 2 strikes. It's not that 200 batting average. Not great. So
you get overpowered in today's baseball if you got 2 strikes on you.
Exactly. So pick pitches early, drive pitches early, put balls in play early. Yeah, I mean, you're going to keep pitchers' pitch counts down. That's fine. But the way pitch counts are nowadays,
yeah,
if you keep it to 70, the guy's going to get pulled anyways. So I'm open to it. I really am. I'm excited to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about it from that perspective, but when we were growing up, the Bill James book said that Wade Boggs was like the most valuable hitter because of his ability to walk. And
Yes.
we saw walks as like there would be crazy conversations about Barry Bonds because he would take a 3-1 fastball in the outside corner that was like an inch and a half off the plate, and he would not swing at it with a runner on third, and fans would get really, really mad. It's like, oh, he's too selfish. He only cares about his on-base percentage. But what it was a discipline, because if he started swinging at that pitch, he was going to swing at it in other counts too, and it would ruin the reason why he was as great as he was. But if you're not Barry and or Brandon Belt, who had a great eye, but who also struck out a ton, maybe getting two fastballs, maybe they may not be right down the middle, but getting to fastball counts and not waiting for the sweepers and, the nasty stuff, it could be a better game plan. But it's just the way that we've watched baseball, these last 10 years, and 10 years being, the last time the Giants won a World Series. It has shifted, clearly has shifted, and it is a different game. And so it's almost like Buster's trying to put the genie back in the bottle. I want to see it. I just don't know if they can afford this experimental year until they go, okay, we went way too far over it and we have to adjust. I would have rather have seen them incrementally do it to kind of get maybe closer to the middle instead of doing that giant overcorrection. Because I just think when you do these wide sweeping things, it's just very hard to get the entire organization, the entire process that is that organization, to all of the minor league teams that they have, all of the coaches that they have, some of whose strengths are different than what Buster wants. It's like, okay, you guys got this offseason to fix it, and we're running it next year. I would have liked to see a little bit more like slowly but surely, let's kind of get back to this middle. But it doesn't sound like that's what we're going to see.
There were hitting coaches with, a year left on their contracts. Guerrero and Veely both had a year left on their contracts, and so maybe keep them around, transition. I see what you're saying. For kicks, do you know what Tony Gwynn hit with two strikes?
Like 260?
302.
Oh my God.
It's ridiculous. Like 302. If you hit 302 in a career, you had a great career. He hit 302 with two strikes.
Amazing. What an amazing baseball player he was.
Yeah. He was the greatest. I loved him.
Oh man. Even when he was out of shape and fat, just hitting lasers, hitting ground balls where people were not. Like, still was very athletic, even though it was pretty clear he was a little overweight. But man, you never see I guess who would be the closest to him today?
Today? I was going to say Pablo was closest to him for us, but Pablo would hit balls off of his shoestrings, balls at his eyes. Tony Gwynn laid off of all of that stuff.
Yeah, he had a much better eye.
Yeah. But today, Luis Arraez?
That's the one that I think is probably the closest.
Yeah, I think so. I want to look at his. I'm just going to look up his career real quick with two strikes, because he was, or was it the Padres who led the league with two strikes?
I thought it was the Brewers. I think we read.
I think it is the Brewers. Yeah. But I'm kind of curious what Arraez did last year with two strikes, because he did come up because the Padres were actually pretty good with two strikes last year. So career wise, with two strikes, Luis Arraez is a 275 hitter.
What about someone who is on the ballot this year for the Hall of Fame and will get in as the first ballot Hall of Famer? What was Ichiro's two strike average?
That's a good question. And he was, God, if he is not a first ballot Hall of Famer, I'll be completely shocked. But
I don't think he's going to be unanimous, just because it's really hard to be unanimous. But
and also because he was older when he came to play in Major League Baseball, so I think that is a small ding, but he'll still make it. But yeah, like
absolutely, he's going to make it.
Yeah, 2-strike hitter, 253.
How interesting! And the thing he had was he was just so fast. So you would think if he just hit the ball on the ground, he probably legged out a few of those.
Yeah, his best. Let's see. His best would have been almost first pitch. He hit 365 on the first pitch.
Remember he hit that inside the park home run against Lincecum in the All-Star game?
The All-Star game. That was disgusting. Yes.
That was not nice.
Well, that's because I think whoever was playing center field obviously was not familiar with our ballpark. So that kind of hurt us. But 2-1 count, he hit 366. But his best 1-0 count, 376.
Wow.
He had 408 of his hits on 1-0 counts. That's pretty impressive.
You gotta get that ball over on Ichiro. First pitch strike.
Oh yeah. Or else
all right, we have another. We have another one of our "Who Do You Want" segments here. This time it's going to be between Max Fried and Blake Snell. Right, I'm going to read through some stuff here on both of these players. Now, on all the lists that I've seen, Max Fried is higher on the list of free agents than Blake Snell. And I think the reason is because there is a belief that when he loses velocity, he's still going to be able to be pretty competitive because of his control and because of his breaking pitches. And the worry is when Snell loses velocity, because he doesn't have great control, he could fall off a little bit more. Like we saw it with Lincecum, right? The second Lincecum lost that velocity, he was less effective. So here is the projection by Tim Britton from The Athletic. We used the same article that he had written for the one we did last time with Christian Walker and who do we do? Who was it?
Christian Walker and Goldschmidt. Yeah,
Goldschmidt. Okay. So his projection for Max Fried is 5 years, $140 million. His projection for Blake Snell is 4 years, $110. Keith Law has Max as the number 4 free agent in his top 50. And he basically says that because he relies so little on his four-seamer to finish off hitters, he believes he's going to hold value into his mid-30s. And I believe Max is he 31 right now, I think?
He's 30. He's still 30 right now.
Okay.
So he's almost 31.
Yeah. When the season starts, he'll be 31. So he's a little bit older than Blake. And for Blake, it's really just that he's so dirty. Like his stuff is so filthy that he can really, really get on crazy runs like we saw in the second half. But the problem is that he walks a lot of guys. But because he misses bats and his stuff generates weak contact, he can still be an above average guy even when he's not the Blake Snell that we know today. He also said that his BABIP last year was a little lucky or fluky is how Keith described it. So, all right. So what Blake Snell is rumored by Tim Britton to be in the market of is 1 year less overall than Fried. And if I can do the math here, 5 into 140, just under 30 per, and Blake 4 for 110, also under 30 per. So the AAV is probably going to be very similar, but he has Fried 5 for 140, Snell 4 for 110. Which of those contracts and players, because it's not just the player, it's also the contract, which one would you like more for the Giants for the next several years?
So I had to correct you real quick. Blake Snell is actually going to be 32.
Oh, he's older.
Yeah, in 2 weeks he'll be 32.
There you go.
So he'll play all next season as 32. I'm going to ask you for those numbers again because I'm looking at. I looked at Spot Track today.
Okay,
and they go predictions based on what other players, similar numbers, similar age, have gotten over the last couple of years, and then inflation and rising contracts and everything else. So they've got Max Fried at 6, 150, so 25 a year. They've got Blake Snell at 5, 131, 26 a year. So only a $1 million difference between the two per year.
It's
so
really the extra year. So he had Fried at 5 for 140, and then he had Blake at 4 for 110.
Okay. So yeah, I think that's why Blake Snell's estimated to get one less year, but again, he's got Scott Boras, so I mean, you could probably add on a year or two on top of that, but
he gets jacked and he's got to go through this whole rigmarole again.
Yeah, exactly. So looking at those two players, and I did a bunch of other numbers too. I'm leaning towards Max Fried because of the 2 years younger. I'm leaning towards Max Fried because the less walks per 9. I'm leaning towards Max Fried because the higher ERA plus, and also he has really good numbers at Oracle. So does Blake Snell. So Max Fried's numbers at Oracle, 2.59 ERA, 20, but that's just 24 innings pitched. But he's only given up 2 home runs at Oracle. But you look at Blake Snell, 2.48 ERA. Of course, he's pitched 76 innings because he was with us last season.
And
he's only
National League West historically.
Yeah, exactly. And the National League West. And he's only given up 3 home runs in 76 innings. But he's pretty much almost doubled the walks per 9. You look at Max Fried, he's 2.5. You look at Blake Snell, he's 4.1 walks per 9. And at 32 years old, like you said, you lose that velocity. Is that number going to start going up? Plus, all of the injuries over the years for Blake Snell, you're looking at probably an average of 160 or more innings for Max Fried. You're looking at an average of 130 or more innings for Blake Snell, based on past injuries and past seasons. So I would take Max Fried, I think, in a heartbeat over Blake Snell. And I like that deal because I like Max Fried. I think Blake Snell is too much of a number one. I think that's going to drive up his price even higher. I think Max Fried, you can look at him and say, well, he's not a true number one. It's tough to say. Harveen just chimed in. He said Max Fried because of Oracle Park. But he chimed in on my text, so he's not on there. So he's watching the show, but he's chiming in a different way. But I think Max Fried, because I think Max Fried paired with Logan Webb and the innings that those two could pitch together, I think is a dangerous combo for the rest of the National League West.
I'm with you. I think this is the first one that we've actually agreed on. Last year, Max Fried averaged 6 innings per start.
Right.
Blake Snell was at 5, like almost right at 5. And some of that was an early rough start. He did go deep into games at the end of the year.
Well, he started late with the team, had to get ramped up, had the injuries, had to get ramped up again. So a lot of that played into that.
Yeah, maybe if he didn't wuss out in the last start, he would have. I'm just kidding.
He would have had more innings.
We already went over that one. I think you can look at this in 2 different ways. Like we can probably go, if it was a 1-year contract, who do you want? And it might be Snell. If it was a 2-year contract, who do you want? And it might be Snell. Once you get to the 3, 4, 5, and 6, I think I would rather have Fried. But anything can happen. Freak injuries, whatever. Blake can, figure out some things. But like if you look at it from that standpoint, in the next 2 years, the way that we saw Blake Snell pitch in Oracle at the end of the season, this dude could be a Cy Young Award winner very easily. But then after that second or third year, then what will he be? Will he be Barry Zito? Will he be, something like that? Lincecum, which I mentioned that, once Lincecum's fastball velocity dipped under like 93, 94, then he struggled. So I think we agree on this one. If you're a fan of the Giants, you're happy with either guy being on the roster. But being that we're comparing these guys and looking at the market, and they're the two best starting left-handers out there, if we had to pick, I think I like yours. I think I'd go with Fried. What do you think about Sasaki, by the way? Roki Sasaki, the young pitcher coming out of Japan.
I mean, the things I've read, he's going to be on a minor league deal, and have to make the club because he's coming out so early from Japan. I would love to have him. I mean, that would be fantastic. That would be another, but he can choose from any team. There's really not, there's not a whole lot of restrictions. So he can go pretty much anywhere he wants. From the things I've read and the things you've listened to, kind of sounds like he wants to be the big fish though.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he wants to be the big fish, do you go to LA and you're just another starter and you
have Yamamoto and Shohei?
I mean, you're going to be under their shadow if you're over there. So, I'm trying to sell him. Come to San Francisco where you won't. I mean, you'll be like the premier Japanese pitcher that we have been trying to get for a few years.
Yeah.
Imanaga, Yamamoto. I mean, Shohei. We've been trying to get a Japanese player of that caliber, that could throw lights out with the movement and everything else. And the culture in San Francisco, it's kind of it's a fantastic mesh. The fan base would welcome him, with arms wide open. So that's one of those things I would love to, again, you're getting him on a minor league deal. And I think you're using, from what I read, you're using also international money, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like a huge amount.
I think if he comes out this year, because he could still just go back to Japan and play another year if he wants. But if he comes out this year, the Dodgers have a lot of the international bonus money, and maybe next year they don't have as much. There's some weird thing that's into the weeds on how this stuff works.
I think in January it kicks over again. And once so that's why they might wait until January to kick the negotiations, and go that route. But yeah, I mean, to get somebody like Max Fried and Sasaki, and all of a sudden, and again, Sasaki's going to be on a pitch limit and everything else. It's just what happens nowadays when you come over from Japan. They pitch less, and so you come over here and you're going to be on a pitch count. You're going to can we ramp him up? Can we get him up to speed? But like, the Giants have always talked about, the philosophy is always, you got to have 7 or 8 starting pitchers. So to have that feather in your cap waiting to go. I mean,
not the new Giants. Buster's like, nope, we're only going 5. If your shoulders about to fall off, too bad.
Yeah. We'll take you if you can go 9 innings. If you can't,
exactly,
look somewhere else.
Oh man. All right. So you had something that you had looked at from one of our shows from a year ago that you wanted to bring up.
I stumbled onto this one today. So last Thanksgiving, we did a hopeful, thankful segment. I don't know if you remember that, but that was kind of fun. And we each chose 2 things that we were hopeful for, that we would be thankful for when the season ended. And I completely forgot about it. And I was kind of going through it today. It's going to make you sad.
Oh,
I mean, it's going to make you sad.
Adding to my sadness from this weekend of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So my first thing that I wanted to be hopeful, thankful for was I wanted our starting pitchers to be in the top 10 in innings pitched by the end of the season. Because I thought going into the season, we got Webb, we didn't have Snell at this point. But I thought, if we're going to go deeper, and Farhan kept talking about it, if we're going to go deeper in the playoffs, we got to get these guys stretched out. We got to have these guys ready and pitching, 6-7 innings so we can rest the bullpen. So in 2023, we were 23rd in innings pitched for starters at 729.1. Last year, we went up to 778.1. We went up about, about 50 innings almost. But then we dropped to 29th. We went from 23rd to 29th because Seattle, just to put it in perspective, led the league in innings pitched for starters with 942. So almost 170 more innings than the Giants had out of their starters. The second thing that I wanted to be thankful for, and this is just total pipe dream. Because I'm a stolen base guy. I love speed. I wanted us to be top 15 in stolen bases. Well, in 2023, we were dead last at 30th with 57.
Bad.
But hey, in 2024, we moved up a spot. We were 29th with 68 stolen bases. 68. Okay, think of that number, 68. Then think of the league leader, the Washington Nationals, with 223 stolen bases.
Jeez.
223, and we had 68.
Was that Fitzgerald? Was he the one who had kind of picked it up for us?
I didn't even look, but he did.
I know Chapman. Chapman had a good.
He had a few, but yeah, Fitzgerald led the team. But the year before, Tyro Estrada led the team. Mm-hmm. He had 20 of our 57 stolen bases the year before. So,
all right, what were mine?
I didn't have yours.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
it's all right.
I only had mine on there, but that was not.
Mine must have been even worse than that. Then if we don't even remember them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I ripped them up and I.
So we will not be back next week for the Thanksgiving holiday. I don't imagine anything big is going to happen. Though, if there's like crazy news, Giants sign a big free agent, something happens, we talked about possibly getting back to do like a shorter show. At that point, maybe we don't even go live, though we could go live. But the idea would be, if need be, we can do an emergency show. But if nothing really happens, we're going to skip next week, and then we'll come back the first week of December for this show. And also, next week we'll not have episode of the Death Lineup because we usually record that on Thursday. That would be Thanksgiving. But Brian was on. He was out this weekend and last week because his stepsister got married in Chicago, so they were out there. He's back. We have to figure out our schedules for this week, but we are hopeful to be back at some point doing an episode of the Death Lineup. And then Rod and I are going to be back this weekend after Niners and Packers. So there will be stuff going on throughout, the time, even as Brad and I are like, nothing going on. What are we going to do?
We're waiting for the hot stove to we're waiting for somebody to light the hot stove, for crying out loud. I mean, but yeah, I think traditionally things happen after Thanksgiving. I know a lot of players have gone on the record. They like to sign deals before Christmas. They like to be settled before the holidays, which I totally understand because you want to enjoy your holidays, not think about that stuff. But we'll see. I mean, it wasn't before Christmas. We had 2 days before Christmas, we had the Correa thing, right?
Right.
It started blowing up. And then all of a sudden we're like, his ankle, what's going on? And so that'll happen like 2 days before Christmas.
Yes, exactly. All right. So we're done for this week. Like I said, if there's anything urgent, we'll do something, but we're going to skip next week. So have a great Thanksgiving. Hopefully, where are you posting now? Are you back on? You're on Threads? Are you posting?
I'm on Threads. Yeah, I think I'm in a little inside baseball here. I think we need to find our login for Instagram because I want to get back on there and do some stuff. But I don't think either of us know what our BSPN login for Instagram is.
I have it, but I don't
okay.
know. Yeah, I am on it because I haven't logged out. But if you ask me what the password is, I probably don't. I don't know.
Maybe we reset it and I get back in there. But yeah, I left Twitter. Man, what was that? August?
Yeah, you got out before.
I got out before
everybody got out. Yeah.
But I'm on Threads. I'm trying out Blue Sky. It's interesting. It's
let me know what you think about Blue Sky, because I'm on Blue Sky. They have these things called starter packs that you can kind of like show people who to follow. So if you like it, I actually don't have we don't have a BSPN account on Blue Sky yet. Right. But that
but I have a personal account.
You have a personal account. If it becomes something, then maybe we will pull that over to Blue Sky as well. But if you're on Blue Sky, we can still do stuff. Like I shared our live stream for this show on Blue Sky.
Cool.
So
awesome.
We'll share our accounts if we actually do get going. All right. So for Brad, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.